So what happens when the so-called prime minister of Hamas thinks he can hide in a hospital? Well, he finds out that Israel doesn't play by the terrorist rules. It rewrites them. Shalom from Israel. I am Hanania Naftali with the latest update from the Middle East. Israel just confirmed it eliminated Ismail Barhoum, Hamas's newly appointed prime minister in Gaza. It was done in a precise airstrike. And no, this wasn't some random attack. This guy wasn't walking down the beach. He was operating out of the Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis. You heard that right. Another Hamas official using a hospital as a terror headquarters is not shocking anymore. It's a pattern. Barhoum, the now former prime minister, took over that position just days ago, after the previous prime minister, Issam al-Dalast, was also eliminated. Apparently, promotions in Hamas come with an expiration date. Barhoum wasn't some clueless bureaucrat. He was a member of Hamas's political bureau. Let me explain. He was responsible for managing the terror group's finances. Yes, the guy who made sure money flowed straight into the terrorist plots, weapon smuggling, and attacks on Israeli civilians. According to the IDF, his financial pipeline helped Hamas survive in Gaza and target Israel over and over again. But before we continue, and before we talk about Israel's next plan to take over Gaza, if you want to fight BDS and the anti-Israel hate machine, then go to the IsraelStore.com and grab something proudly pro-Israel. Because wearing the Star of David is not just fashion, it's resistance against evil. Let me make it simple. Israel didn't just take out a man, it struck at the operational brain of Hamas's terror economy. It's a big deal. It's not just a war, it's strategy. But now, of course, Hamas is crying crocodile tears, blaming Israel for striking a hospital. With the support, of course, of all the anti-Semites and the anti-Israel activists out there on social media that immediately jump at every opportunity they have to blame Israel. I always wonder, where were their voices on October 7? Where were their voices at the funeral of the Bibas family? But you know what they conveniently leave out, these activists and Hamas, is that 85% of Gaza's hospital have been hijacked by Hamas for military purposes. The Shifa hospital has been used for torture, hostage holding, terror shafts, you name it. The Palestinian Red Crescent, let's just say it has been repurposed, turning from humanitarian organization into a cover for terror logistics. Hamas turned its ambulances into a getaway car. Hamas thrives off two things: international sympathy and human shields. The IDF isn't targeting civilians. I have to say that. It's targeting the cowards who hide behind them. When terrorists start wearing lab coats and hiding behind hospital walls, the world has two choices: keep pretending it's complicated, or wake up and confront evil for what it is. Now, I want to talk to you, let's just imagine we're zooming out. Let's talk about the bigger picture. First of all, the Israeli Air Force launched a new operation in Gaza. Let's call it flying trucks. You'll know why. The Air Force identified about 100 pickup trucks belonging to Hamas's elite Nukba unit. These trucks were used by these terrorists who invaded Israel on October 7. So basically, the Israeli intelligence mapped where the trucks were hitting in Gaza, and within hours, the Israeli Air Force launched a full-blown demolition party. This is about removing Hamas's ability to launch future raids. Those vehicles were attack tools waiting to happen. And now they're just scrap metal. So between wiping out their leadership, seizing strategic zones, because as we're talking, Israel is advancing and taking over key strategic areas in Gaza, and also destroying operational vehicles like we saw, There is another breaking news report about Israel potentially preparing to take over the Gaza Strip. Let's get into it. Because according to multiple reports, according from the Washington Post and the Times of Israel, Israeli officials are seriously considering a full-scale occupation of Gaza for months, possibly longer. So what's the plan? Direct military control of aid distribution. I mean, we all saw that the UN didn't do a very good job at it. They just basically let Hamas steal the aid, didn't get to the people. Scraps of it got to the people. And even with those scraps, the Palestinians had more than enough, trust me. Next thing is total elimination of Hamas leadership and the creation of humanitarian bubbles where vetted non-combatants can relocate to. Everyone else, the militants, they're surrounded and neutralized. I think this plan is a step closer to advancing Trump's proposal for the relocation of Palestinians in Gaza. And of course, the first step is taking control of Gaza in order to completely finish Hamas. The Strategic Affairs Minister, Ron Dermer, is set to meet with U.S. National Advisor Mike Waltz and discuss this possible move, alongside other topics, including Iran, I believe. Look, I think that whatever the media is saying, of course, always challenge what they're saying, but I think that this is the right move. Because unless we act, Hamas will act. Enough is enough. For nearly 2 decades, Gaza has functioned as a launchpad for terror. You can't fix a collapsing building with a fresh coat of paint. Sometimes you have to tear down the rot in order to rebuild something safe. This is not about occupying for glory. It's about responsibility. If Hamas refuses to surrender and release the hostages and continue to kill civilians and abuse hospitals, use them like bunkers, then Israel has the moral obligation to remove them. Not just for Israel's sake, but also for the sake of the other Palestinians who live there. Their lives are in danger as a result of that. So that's it. If we continue going down this road, then it's the last days for Hamas. Even the Arab media, who are definitely not fans of the IDF, they're admitting that Hamas is losing fast. Hamas militants are surrendering and retreating. Their rockets are drying up, and their leaders are falling like dominoes. Israel is fighting until total victory, as said by Prime Minister Netanyahu. And victory isn't always measured in battles won. Sometimes it's measured in the silence of your enemies. And Hamas, they're getting quieter. If in the beginning of the war, years ago, if anything that Israel did in Gaza resulted in massive rocket fire, talking about hundreds, if not thousands, now Israel is pounding Hamas in Gaza, and we barely got 2 or 3 rockets that were launched from Gaza. Psalm 144 verse 1 says, "Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle." Listen, we are not fighting for power. We're fighting for peace. And sometimes, to achieve peace, it requires war. I know it can be difficult for people to understand, especially people who never been to the Middle East, people that never heard of war. But sometimes if you want to make peace, you have to be ready for war. And of course, with everything that I'm talking with you guys here, we cannot forget the hostages. There are still hostages in Gaza, including Americans, by the way, and we must bring them home. Hamas tries to play games with the hostage negotiations again. They rejected 2 U.S. proposals and a bridge plan that would have extended the ceasefire, the phase 1. Their arrogance is just mind-blowing, I have to say, because now they're complaining about Israeli strikes. Spare me. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's impossible to negotiate with those who seek our destruction day and night. But still, we have no choice but to keep the negotiation channels open. And right now, Israel is waiting to see whether or not an Egyptian new ceasefire proposal will bear any fruit. So I will keep you updated on that, but Israel said that any future negotiations will only happen under fire. So that is not going to stop Israel from continuing the campaign in Gaza. And we're actually saying that the Israeli army relocated a whole division back to Gaza. So it's back on the ground, ready to enter Gaza. Maybe by now they're already entering into the Gaza Strip. They're pushing deep into enemy territory. They're not slowing down. They're accelerating, and that's exactly how it should be. And you know what? I'm actually glad that Israel is not asking for permission, or not from the UN. I mean, they're the biggest hypocrites, not from the ICC that rushed to issue arrest warrants against the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister. What about all the other Hamas terrorists? We're not asking for their permission in order to start delivering consequences. Look, if Hamas wants war, then war they shall get. If they want to play victim after launching rockets, too bad. I care about our children, not the PR of Hamas. And you know, if we want to understand what the next move is, we have to look at this following quote by the Defense Minister of Israel. I think it sets the tone of what the next moves of Israel are going to be. He said, the more Hamas persists in its refusal, the more territory it will lose, which will be annexed to Israel. And honestly, that threat needs to be real. You want to keep using your cities to launch terror? You don't get to keep them. This may sound extreme, again, to the extreme left, but what's extreme is actually letting a terror empire fester next door for 20 years while they teach kids to target Jews and blow up buses. It's time to change the rules. This is exactly what Israel is doing. Mercy without justice is weakness. And Israel cannot afford weakness. Not with Iran, not with Hezbollah, and every anti-Semite on earth watching. Guys, don't forget, this war didn't start in October. It started long before, when Hamas turned Gaza into a launchpad for jihad. October 7 was just the moment they revealed how far they were willing to go to try and erase as much of the Jewish state as possible. But now the tide is turning. So as I always say, if you support the truth, if you support Israel, then make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is a place where the sugarcoating stops and the truth gets told. Until next time, I'm Israel.